Hey guys, Kyle here. So, just before the show starts, I wanted to mention our Patreon. You can pay us $1 a month as a thank you, as a tip. You can pay $2 a month to get access to one of our bonus content shows, episodes 2 days early, and a secret Discord chat where all of our Patreon donors get to go and hang out and talk with us directly. Then there's a $5 tier that you can donate to get access to a whole bunch more content. We have multiple bonus episodes on there. So please check it out. Patreon.com/itgetsweird. We don't advertise, we don't make money. So check it out and throw some money if you think that would be cool. Thanks.
Welcome to It Gets Weird, our comedy show where we explore the unusual, the unbelievable, and the unexplained to try to make your world a little weirder. I'm Niall.
And I'm Kyle, and this week's episode of It Gets Weird is sponsored by Hard Mountain Dew. The Mountain Dew
shit, you got it?
You can get fucked up on. This was brought to a party over the weekend, and I'm going to, so when they sponsor you, they usually want you to kind of give your opinion on it. They don't want you to,
Did they give you ad copy to read?
Yeah. So let me read the ad copy really quick. Hang on a second. I have it right here. Yeah, not very good. Kind of doesn't taste very good. Kind of tastes like bad. But if you are really super into Mountain Dew and of legal drinking age, that's fucking crazy. Check out Hard Mountain Dew. This is the Live Wire orange flavor. Not great.
That's a really interesting ad copy.
Fuck. Sorry, we have one other sponsor this week.
Oh, really?
And his name is Collin.
Do you have my copy that you can read for me really quick, Kyle?
Yeah, okay. Here,
and please make sure you say fuck like you did with the Mountain Dew one.
Ad copy for Collin here. It says, fuck! He's so good. He's cute. One. Mm-hmm. He's cute.
So refreshing.
He's funny. People don't know this, but he can really fucking put on a jig. He can dance.
Yeah. So good. I'm so glad I wrote. No, I'm just saying I'm so glad I wrote this for you because hearing it from your mouth into my ears makes me feel all warm and tingly inside. Honestly, like a hard live wire Mountain Dew makes you feel all warm and tingly inside.
This really was left at our place at a party.
That's insane.
And I sort of imagine the person who brought it was like, "This isn't very good, and I'm not going to take it home with me."
Although I do like you're working very hard to clear your name of why Hard Mountain Dew is in your house, like it's a crime. I didn't bring it into my house. Someone left it here. There, and you can't waste it.
Let me clarify. And this is actually because I was just thinking because I did bring up my drinking Monster energy drink. So actually, let me try and get ahead of those jokes. I mentioned that on the last episode of the podcast. Want to get ahead of those jokes real quick. Monster Energy was not like a significant, fixture in my life, even in high school. I mean, it happened occasionally, okay? And I never once punched drywall. That's just not, I've never done that. And as far as Mountain Dew goes, especially Hard Mountain Dew, I have an even, beyond just my feelings of like disliking this versus this illness that I have that requires me to not waste anything in the fridge and pantry. It overwhelms the dislike of it, and so I'm drinking this to get rid of it.
What is this era that you are in right now? Because I'm saying I didn't even know you last week you had a monster thing. I mean, other than the fact that you do a cryptozoological podcast and the fact that you talked about monsters in the liquid form and not in the spooky one is insane.
This was me telling a story from high school where I drank Monster and why I don't drink it now.
Got it.
Or just energy drinks in general. But no, what's happening is I'm turning into my father is the truth.
You have like an I used to drink story, but it's about Monster and you were in high school and you punched drywall. I don't mean to relitigate. But
it's a meme.
Okay.
Because of his name, Kyle has developed a bit of a complex about the meme of people named Kyle being shitheads that punch drywall.
Yeah.
And so this is a very online thing that we're dealing with here.
It's not even like a recent meme. It's like many years removed at this point. So,
but like really, you went straight from fucking South Park to that. Like,
yeah,
you've had a rough life.
I thank you. Thank you. It has been rough because like in high school, it was the people doing the really funny bit of quoting anti-Semitic stuff from South Park, which like in the show is obviously like mocking the fact that these people are stupid and ignorant for saying those things.
Right.
But then like in high school, you just say it because you think it's funny to be a dick, I guess. And then, I went from that to being accused of being a drywall punching monster drinker. And I don't appreciate that shit.
Now, Kyle, the thing that's wild about this logical leap that you've sort of entered into this new era, as I put it previously, is that you're not somebody who's chronically online. So the fact that you're slipping into these niche subcultures is really interesting to me. I'm just kind of curious how you fell into that, because you're like somebody who enjoys, you're like crunchy, like oatmeal eating, sort of like all hiker guy. You like work on your truck on the weekends, and I'm just concerned and confused about like how you got to this kind of toxic subsection of the internet that you're so infrequently on.
Collin, I don't like your tone.
The sassy one.
The
sassy one.
I also can you picture my ass in a truck?
Yes.
Like, okay. Well, if you can, then
I mean, it's not that hard. I've seen trucks. I've seen you.
I've seen your ass.
I can. Yeah, actually, that's true.
I've seen your ass. I mean, same here.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. What the fuck just happened?
Is this about your video cutting right as we started talking about your ass? I thought you were going to take your pants off. Is honestly kind
I
of
really
what
thought it was a bit.
I
thought you were going to reappear and have like changed into a hat or something.
You can still hear me though, right?
Yeah, you sound fine.
Okay, well, let me
I thought I was the one who was supposed to have technical issues on this episode of It Gets Weird.
What the fuck is this shit?
Try checking the default Zoom video settings for automatically turn off video, even though that's not what you're looking for. Okay.
Sorry, this is not. It's something is wrong with my USB ports. This is not good. Anyways, I can no longer turn the video camera back on. I'm very sorry, guys. So
It's okay. Colin and I will just stare longingly at each other for the rest of the episode and leave you out of it.
As long as you can still hear me, I just want to make sure that's still good. Okay. Jesus Christ. Well, I kind of want to divert attention away from me now because we've talked about my whole shit way too much. Collin, we haven't had you on in so long. It saddens me. So I'm so happy to have you back on the show.
It feels like putting on a warm sweater, like that you pull it out like the first chilly day of fall, and it's like buried and dusty in the back of your closet, and you just sort of pull it on and hug yourself a little bit. That's what it feels like being back. I think the last time I was here was the 500th episode or whatever that y'all did, right? Was it 500?
500. It was. I actually think it was 300.
300. It was 100
because 400. Did we have? No, we didn't have Collin on 400, which is a shame. But it was a whole circumstantial thing about anyways, we didn't have you on 400. I think it was 300 because that was another one of the big campfire stories.
We like played D&D.
We went to the mansion or whatever. Yeah, and we played some
not
D&D together.
Whatever.
What we played D&D Light.
We made believe.
Yeah. Yes. We played make believe.
We shared an experience together.
Yeah.
I think I've done that twice with y'all. It's the best. I love playing make believe.
It's so much fun. I'm glad that there's like this sort of, thing that you can do as an adult that still lets you play make believe without like really being judged. Like some people will be like, Dungeons and Dragons, isn't that nerd shit? But those people, whatever, who gives a shit? You can still play make believe, and D&D gives me an excuse to do that. And it's perfect. So it's great that we get to do all that stuff together. Collin,
yes,
welcome back. It's
Kyle.
been a hot minute, and I'm so happy. But Niall is the one who did the research this week.
That's true.
Am a complete fool. No fucking clue what we're about to get into. Niall is the secret keeper, the lord of the information.
The dungeon master.
Yes, the dungeon master, if you will. Yes.
Yeah. I was going to check. I believe you said we had an email to read this week.
Oh, right. Oh my God. I almost forgot. Actually, if you're Collin, if you don't mind, we do get emails from people, and we had a good one this week. So I want to kick this off with an email that maybe we can all discuss.
I love that.
That I thought was pretty good.
And you know what? To the person who sent in this email, thank you for supporting podcasts with your actual words. I mean, it means a lot whenever you listen to the episodes, but actually interacting with the podcast is it means a lot to the people who sit down and actually do the work every week. So thank you.
I agree.
It's true.
I should say up front, Collin is a lead guy on our sister podcast, Pop Culture Roll Call. So everybody has to go check them out. Like, if you listen to us, you got to listen to them. I don't make the rules, okay? I wouldn't force you to do it if I didn't have to, but you got to do it.
You got to do it. It's one of those laws, though, like going 5 miles an hour over the speed limit's technically illegal. No one's really going to pull you over for it, but come on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's not a primary offense. It's only if you get pulled over for something else, you can then get that slapped on for an extra fine, you know?
If I pull you over for any other reason, I find out that you got one of our 2 podcasts in your feed, but not the other one, baby, you better be getting out of the car because you're getting your Miranda rights. All I'm saying.
Yeah. Wow. Sorry, this is a tangent, but that just reminds me, back in high school, I actually had to like stop by a courtroom to basically get told that I had to do community service for a violation, like a violation. Yeah. It's a whole stupid story. I was genuinely like, this was like my first run-in with policing, and it was terrible. So, but I remember going to the courtroom to like get told like you have to do like 20 hours of community service because you got pulled over or whatever. And I don't remember, we ran into a kid that I knew who went to the other high school in our hometown, and his mother. And I remember the kid telling me like, you know, that main stretch in our hometown of road between this and that. Yeah. You know how it says the speed limit's 50? My son was going 55 miles per hour and they pulled him over. And I was like, that's like, you know, that's like not even illegal. And I was like thinking to myself, yeah, right. He was going 55. This kid was probably going fucking 70 miles an hour on that road. But that's where I learned this secret that you can do 5 over legally.
Oh, there's actually legally you can do 5 over. I didn't even know that. And I'm the son of a cop.
Oh, well, legally in scare quotes.
Oh, yeah. Legally in scare quotes, I get. Technically, I think it's like, for me, it's like 8 to 9.
Yeah, no, that's what I do.
You get well, that rounds down. So you get,
it rounds to 5.
Exactly. So, oh my God. Anyways,
hit it.
Thank you for sending in the email. And I think we might have an interesting discussion from this. So, the email says a recommendation and an appeal from Nick, and it says hello to you both, and I'm going to throw in hello to Collin as well. They don't know that you're going to be on here. First off, let me offer my sincere congratulations for being the first and only podcast that I have ever emailed. Can you describe how that feels? Feels like a big question to me. So can we describe how it feels for a person to choose to write into us for the first time? It feels good, Nick. It feels good.
As long as the rest of the email isn't specifically attacking me personally, then I think it feels pretty great.
It's really mostly about the stuff they don't like about me, but I'll skip over that.
Okay. Well, then that's fine. Yeah, you guys can shit on Kyle. That's great.
It goes on to say, I've been listening to the show for about a year, and I've burned through pretty much every episode. In response to the latest 3-partner on old Sydney G, I thought both of yourselves and your listeners should be aware that there's a Netflix documentary from a few years ago called Wormwood about the very suspicious death of Frank Olson and his family's crusade for answers and justice. It's part interview narration, primarily by Frank's son, Eric Olson, and part dramatization starring Peter Skarsgård. He is the guy who has an angry and sleepy expression all the time. That isn't important to the story, but with all the scars and Skarsgårds running around, things get confusing. So, Collin, just to be clear, we did 3 episodes on some kooky, spooky CIA mind control LSD shit. Just before this, I actually talked with your wife a month and a half ago and was describing a book that I was reading about this stuff.
This was at the baby party, not my baby's party, but the other baby party.
The other baby party.
And
I just remember your wife turning to me and saying, like, I think you should probably read some fiction books. You should move to some fiction. And I was like, yeah, you're probably right.
There's occasionally Kyle will be like, I'm reading 3 books at once right now, and they're all about how the CIA is like fucking America. And it's like, yeah, Kyle, you might want to put in like something for fun in there just to kind of reset your palate. You know?
Have you thought of maybe throwing in Cry the Beloved Country just for like a little bit of a palate cleanser?
No, I think I'm due for it.
How about Old Man in the Sea? Get your scholastic points.
It's a classic. It's a classic. I haven't read it since high school. Maybe I'll revisit Old Man in the Sea, and then I'll just come on and talk about it on the show or something.
Becomes your whole personality.
Yeah. But that's what this email's talking about. They go on to say, I was hoping that, should this email be read at the top of your show, I could make a personal request for help from your listeners. So on May 21st of this year, around midnight, my fiance and I were driving from St. Paul west towards Minneapolis when we witnessed what I can only call a UFO or a group of them. They appeared as small single points of light, maybe 24 of them in the shape of a hook. They were north of the city and seemed to be stationary or traveling relatively slow. They retained the rough hook shape, though each moved up or down individually, akin to a flock of birds in formation. Man, I hope it wasn't a flock of birds. We had been watching them for a minute or two, still driving, when suddenly the lights executed a movement like they were retracting into a spiral. I guess imagine those old window shades with the pull string that you could tug and they'd shoot upwards and flip around. So they'd do that and just spin for a few seconds like a pinwheel, and then one by one the lights would be ejected outward from this pinwheel formation and stop equidistant from each other in a long line. After that, they either faded or disappeared and zipped off. I kind of lost track of them in any case. All of these movements were done incredibly fast. The whole thing lasted probably 15 seconds. After the lights disappeared, we noticed a couple helicopters flying apart but at equal speed and in line with each other, headed towards the cities. I don't know if this was related to the lights or not. I've looked and haven't been able to find anything online from anyone who has reported seeing the same thing that night, but maybe one of your listeners did. I know this is a long one, so thank you. Love what you and all the guests do. Peace from Nick.
All right. Thanks, Nick.
Thanks, Nick.
Wow. Is that the first time we've had like a UFO sighting sort of like get broken on the show like that? Like we've had people reference seeing things that ended up in the news. But I don't think we've had somebody be like, we saw this like really specific detailed UFO sighting that we can't find any information about from anybody else who saw it. That's pretty wild.
I'm gonna have to go back through. There's those sites that are just straight up like a list of everyone's who submitted UFO sightings that you can kind of sort. Like those are the ones that you have to like learn how to even like begin to try to parse that information because it is just like a stream of consciousness.
Yeah.
And see if there's anything that matches that. Because that's like my immediate response was like that it's like the Blue Angels or whatever that fucking like
the Blue Angels
stunt team is. But the helicopters coming in after is like classic kind of old school UFO cover up bullshit. So it it'll be interesting to look into. I have no idea.
I mean,
what weekend was this? When was the email sent in? I'm just curious.
May 20. So the email came in recently,
but it was back in May.
Yeah, May 21st, St. Paul west towards Minneapolis, which like I don't know anybody out there, but
me neither.
I got to see if there's military bases around.
Yeah, that was going to be my first thing was look and see if there's military bases. 1, 2. There's like you could I think like one of your I'm trying to remember which organizations, but like you said, it's like you can find like pretty good websites that try to document this stuff, user submitted reports. Maybe you could submit your own report. Like I think there's NUFORC, National UFO Reporting Center or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't bother with like MUFON, but like maybe National UFO Reporting Center could be a good place to look. Just look for those websites that are like trying to document that stuff and pull in like user submitted stuff, I guess would be my suggestion. But hey, if a listener out there has heard anything about this or has seen anything like this before, let us know. That would be very interesting. So thank you, Nick, for the email.
Yeah, appreciate it, Nick. Thanks for sending in. I'm curious, like, as somebody who's not as deep in the paint, like with these sites that are user submitted like UFO reports, are they sort of because I've worked in scientific databases before when I worked for like a nature museum, and Anil was saying that you have to like, you have to kind of understand how to parse the stream of consciousness, but does it have like a filterable, like you can tag certain things and you can like set tags where it's like it's like, set a city and then like reports from self-reported within like X radius. Like I'm kind of curious how that actually ends up playing out in something that's, I'm assuming is low budget as like independent UFO reporting.
I don't think it usually has that level of granularity on stuff. There's just like people will log where it was seen. And so you can kind of sort by country and by maybe state and city and stuff, but I don't think you can like set a radius or anything as far as I'm aware.
I don't know if there's anything that gets that. Yeah. But like there's some, usually what it is it's just like a website that looks like it's trapped perpetually in 2006. And then, some fucking Stugatz is running like a SQL server at home from their home that, captures all that data submitted by users but like, I think the fields are like, it's like, location, description, like sometimes what I will see is like there's sort of how would you like, I don't know, like species, like types of UFOs, right? Like cigar shaped orbs. There's a lot of different kinds. So sometimes I think the most granular I've ever seen it get is where like you can select a type of UFO or you can enter a type of UFO, but like it could be, hey, this is the kind of thing that we got to appeal to the fucking weirdos to the Stars Academy with Tom DeLonge to get on to put together a like user submission database for UFOs, I think.
Yeah,
that
just so you're aware, Collin, the drummer from Blink-182 is now a big UFO guy funded by the government.
Not the drummer, baby. It's the fucking lead singer guitar player.
Sorry.
Travis Barker is the drummer, and he's afraid of airplanes. I don't know that's why those things are linked in my brain, but he was in a plane crash. He has good reasons.
If I was in a plane crash, I would never get on another plane. The only thing that keeps me flying is statistics that they don't crash often.
I just always think about anytime they have like a European tour, you always hear that Travis Barker is leaving like a month ahead of time because he's taking like a boat across to England with all of his drums and everything. And that seems really cool. Like fucking travel by train and boat, and because he has enough money to make that happen.
Good for him.
I mix those two up in my head. They're all kind of effectively the same person to me. So
don't let them hear you say that. Come kick your ass.
Hey, guess what? They won't.
Can you imagine if you walked out your front door to go like pick up the newspaper? You're like holding a coffee with your like white flip flops and your bathrobe and Blink-182 say there and kick your ass.
Just all three of them standing there together. Yeah.
I feel like we've said enough on this show before. We're like, if they did listen through the whole catalog of It Gets Weird, they would find enough incriminating evidence to want to kick my ass in my driveway.
That's what I'm saying. They like throw a loose stack of papers at you. Turns out it's just transcripts from your podcast. Yeah. And why are
God forbid we ever get a podcatcher that has like really good auto transcription that can like tag references and stuff, so bands can just like name search themselves in podcasts for people talking shit. Like that's partially my nightmare because I've said a lot of bullshit on this show.
Yeah. But think about the headlines, local podcaster gets ass kicked by Blink-182 for UFO accusations. I mean, we'd get like a huge upswell of interest. A lot of angry Blink-182 fans, sure, but maybe we could.
No publicity is bad publicity.
Exactly.
If I got my ass kicked by Blink-182, I would never show up about it. I would and like laugh constantly.
So many people would listen to the podcast for the story of you getting your ass kicked by Blink-182, and like that's just good marketing.
Yes, exactly. Now, all right. I feel like you have a topic this week. Is that true?
I do. I do have that. I was just trying to figure out how to segue into that, and you beat me to it. So this week, I decided to, since we had Collin in the house, I decided to look around Chicago and see what I could find to talk about this week. And so I looked into a haunted location that sent me down kind of an interesting rabbit hole. Today, Collin, I don't know if you'll recognize this, but you might. We're going to talk about the whole house.
The whole house. I'm going to Google where that's at right now because I know the name.
It I don't think the actual building is there any longer.
Okay.
But there's a historical. No, Hull.
Oh, okay.
I think it's a family name, right?
Yeah. So for those that don't know, the whole house is it was originally built in 1856 by Charles Hull and his wife Millicent. And it was it kind of had a couple different things that occupied the house after Charles Hull moved out and died. But it was like a shelter for a while. It was like a not a convent, but it was a place for like women of faith to be around. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff. Not really, but kind of like unofficially. And then the next kind of famous thing that it was, and the reason that it's kind of known is it was opened up as one of the first settlement houses in the U.S. by a woman named Jane Addams. And she's going to be a pretty important person that we're going to talk about a lot this episode because she's kind of fascinating. But she's going to be the main kind of era of the house that we're talking about. So for those that don't know, a settlement house was basically a charitable house. It was a concept that started in Europe where the purpose of them was to bring the upper classes and the lower classes together so that you can better understand each other and philanthropic stuff can happen and like conversations can happen and like trying to be a community-minded project that sometimes was wrapped up in like either Christianity or kind of waspiness. But the general public was just trying to have a place where you could have education, you could have some like basic medical care, and you can have people of all walks of life congregating in one place to kind of learn more about each other.
Sorry, did you say what year this was?
That started in 1913. Oh no, sorry. That was when the encounters started happening. She set up the house in 1889.
Okay.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I've just been fixated on this name Millicent because you've kind of, by naming somebody Millicent, set them on the path to become some sort of villain.
Not quite, but she is a ghost, possibly. So
that's
Millicent Hull might be the lady in white that haunts the whole house.
Being a ghost is sort of villain adjacent, so that works.
Yeah.
Well, first off, rude. Second off, Niall, do you know because I just looked up where there's apparently a Hull House museum still active in Chicago, and it's actually really highly rated, and I know exactly where it is. It's just actually kind of like in downtown. It's like on the west, sort of about a mile west of Grant Park. And I was curious, is that the location of the whole house, or is that just where the museum is? Do you know if the like house itself is in the same spot?
So the house was on the west side,
okay.
Which is kind of important to some of the stuff in the era. But I don't think they're on the exact same location. I think that the museum is in the same area, but not on the same grounds.
Gotcha.
I read something about the house that it's now being like some sort of like development. Like it got torn down in like 2010 or something like that.
Okay.
It lasted until the 2000s at least. So there are a couple big sightings. Like this is a place that has the biggest story about it is a devil baby story, which the concept of a devil baby is something that I kind of got fascinated with this week because it, especially with the way that Jane Addams dealt with it, she was very civic minded, very into helping the poor, helping immigrants, helping people. And we'll get into it more, but she basically was like confronted with the social realities of a devil baby phenomenon in her town. And because of that, she learned a lot about like how that manifests and what the fear behind that is in some ways, which is really interesting to me. So I've got some history of the devil baby phenomenon and what that means and what it is and all that kind of stuff that we're going to talk about. But
I was wondering if we were going to explain what a devil baby is because I will kind of familiar with the idea, but the thing is my devil baby lore has a Nolans, Cajun flavor. Because they got devil baby shit going on down there in the lore. So I'm curious what Chicago Chicago style devil babies like? Is it sort of a deep dish devil baby?
Man, you beat me to my own joke. It's my city. You're not allowed to make deep dish jokes.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
there's also a tavern style devil baby, which is very thin and rectangular cut.
And some would say that's the true Chicago devil baby style, and that deep dish devil baby is just for the tourists.
Yeah.
Collin, if you want to go ahead and make the deep dish devil baby joke, you can go ahead and say it, and we'll just edit around my ass.
No, I think we've talked and edited around your ass enough for one episode.
So, just for a general gist, what a devil baby is basically exactly what it sounds like. There is a woman that gives birth to this baby that comes out deformed, a lot of times with cloven hoofs, sometimes red skin, horns, the likes. In some cases, I ended up reading some other devil baby lore, including what seems to be the kind of original devil baby, which happened in Cleveland, I think. And it like, a lot of them come out the womb, and like there's one in the Chicago story where it's supposedly the husband that was in the room where the baby was being delivered was smoking a cigar, and the devil baby came out of the mother's womb, stood up and grabbed the husband's cigar and started smoking it, which I think is a fucking hilarious thing to do.
Were they on the set of Who Framed Roger Rabbit? It was like Bob Hoskins the delivering.
Yeah. Yeah, like I love the stories of like, okay, so basically devil babies are are entirely made up. You've got your Jersey Devils, you've got your Grunches is the one that Kyle was referring to down in New Orleans, and this one, but like a lot of them come out the womb and immediately just like start talking shit. Like they start like stealing stuff and like wisecracking and everything.
That's awesome.
And I think that as a concept is just hilarious.
Yeah. Okay.
You give birth to this like cloven hoofed baby that just comes out and starts being mean to you.
Like you've been through, as somebody who's been in a delivery room as his wife was giving birth, the idea that 18-hour stressful sleep deprived ordeal would end in a cloven hooved cigar smoking shit talking Chicago baby is absolutely phenomenal. I'm a big fan and I can't wait.
God, that's
oh no,
that's the gist of what a devil baby is.
I love this devil baby stuff. I
quote him on that.
Well, no, I thought I could have sworn there was some sort of relationship between the idea of a devil baby and Harlequin babies. Am I misremembering something?
I don't. There very well could be. I didn't come across a lot of Harlequin baby stuff while doing this.
Might be
research,
a New Orleans thing.
Yeah, it very well could be related. It just didn't come up with my specific devil baby.
I
research.
actually have a devil baby, like a little devil baby doll, hanging from in my car that my parents got me from New Orleans. That's like,
oh really?
Yeah, it's just like a little tiny baby that's just dressed as a red and black devil. It's really good. But I got like kind of Harlequin baby vibes. I don't know. We'll have to research the devil baby.
Yeah, I probably am going to do an actual like full-blown devil baby episode because it's an interesting phenomenon. But this will be the amuse-bouche of that.
Okay.
So I feel like I kind of have to split this up a little bit because there's the kind of sensationalized story, and then there's a lot of like the thing about this is Jane Addams is like a legitimate historical figure, so she's had a lot of people do intense research on her life. She wrote multiple biographies and stuff.
She wrote like Sense and Sensibility, right?
No, that's Jane Austen.
Oh shit.
Jane Addams, at the time of her death in 1935, was supposedly the most well-known woman in America.
Oh.
She was like considered the first social worker and started the women trash pickup movement in Chicago that like helped to like clean up Chicago streets from being just covered in trash. Like she was a fighter for progress and a force for good, as far as I can tell, other than some very outdated theories on prostitution and eugenics.
Jesus! Well,
but you didn't have.
She also won a Nobel Peace
Prize. Lead. That's on you.
Yeah.
You had your fist up talking about like power and progress and strong women voices. And then and then there's also some shit about eugenics, but like, let's not.
Yeah. This is the thing. She is well regarded as like a positive force. But then there are some beliefs that you could only really have in 1916 or 19 whatever. And that's unfortunately part
within
of it.
5 minutes of her getting brought up, she gets milkshake ducked.
Yeah, exactly. But I did kind of bury. She was, I think, one of the first women to ever win a Nobel Peace Prize. So there's kind of a mixed bag.
Can you imagine being brought up to get your Nobel Peace Prize and use that as a platform to then promote your ideas about eugenics?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure she wouldn't be the first or last. If I'm just going off on a limb here.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, basically the concept of the devil baby, this was brought up in 1913 is when it came into Chicago. And the furor, the total panic around this devil baby lasted for approximately 6 weeks.
Collin,
I didn't furor, not
yeah,
furor.
I know, but the fact that we were just talking about eugenics and he said the furor.
What made me laugh so hard is I looked up and Collin kind of did a double take.
I did.
Because I think he just wasn't quite sure which word was for like a split second.
Yeah. It's one of those words that for some reason I just reach for more often than I probably should. So
try
it's
fervor.
Not super fervor. Yeah, there you go.
That one's a little, it's like the same word, but like it's a little more divorced from.
It's cleaner. Yeah. It's a little more divorced. Okay.
The divorced furor.
Divorced from that idea. That's what I'm saying.
So the devil baby, the way that this started is strange because all of a sudden in 1913, a bunch of immigrant women started to just come to the whole house asking to see the devil baby. And no one at the whole house had any idea what the fuck they were talking about. They would ask for these women for their stories and for any kind of idea of what they were looking for, and these women would have all of these different kind of ideas of, oh, it was born here and you're hiding it in the attic, or oh, it was left here and you're taking care of it and hiding it from the public, or there are all these different stories, and some of them kind of, when Jane Addams started to look into it, it was coming from different cultural backgrounds, had kind of a different version of the story that they were all of them bringing it to the whole house. But basically, I don't know exactly how the story started in Chicago. I know how the devil baby phenomenon started in general, but I don't know how it moved specifically to Chicago in 1913, and I haven't found a specific answer to that. In general, it was started as it ended up being a prank in Cleveland in like 1889, I think. A newspaper started it as like a prank story, and it kind of got out of hand. And then the circus and carnival sideshow performers and stuff started to kind of mimic the devil baby as an attraction, and then that led the kind of, as those circuses spread around, you started to see other devil baby stories pop up in different places around the country, up until as recently as 1970. But I haven't found specifically where the one for Chicago came from. But all of a sudden, like, no joke, literally thousands of people started to show up at the whole house trying to see this devil baby, offering money, offering like services, just trying anything to do to try to see this crazy thing that that they were supposedly hiding at this house. And no, like the phone was when they had a phone, like they were just like inundated with requests to see this thing that no one had any idea where it came from. Yeah,
all these fucking people are just coming from all over the place just so they can see hole.
No, they want to see baby in the hole.
Baby.
Yeah,
hole.
They want to see a baby in a hole.
Okay,
devil baby. I feel like it makes sense how it got to Chicago. Like, we might not know the exact specific like person or event, but if it was a nearby, I mean, you said Cincinnati, right? Like, Cincinnati's not,
Yeah.
It's
it must be like
Cleveland,
one of these traveling groups, right? Like, and I can only imagine like what they're doing to create devil babies for like a traveling circus type thing. Like, is it like, did you get any details on that?
No, I was gonna look into that for the actual Devil Baby episode. Gotcha. There is enough in just this story to do a full episode, so I didn't expand too far beyond it. But like it just was a thing that became like a phenomenon in the background of the turn of the century of the 1900s. So supposedly the first instance was described by Jane Addams as such. So one day when 3 Italian women with an excited rush, they came to the whole house with an excited rush through the door, demanding that he be shown to them. No amount of denial convinced them that he was not there, for they knew exactly what he was like with his cloven hoofs, his pointed ears, and diminutive tail. Moreover, the devil baby had been able to speak as soon as he was born and was most shockingly profane. So... And then she found that there was, so that was the Italian version, which dealt with a pious Italian girl who was married to an atheist, and the husband, in a rage, tore a bunch of holy pictures down from the bedroom wall while the wife was pregnant, and saying that he would rather have a devil in the house than for her to have this child. And that was such a thing that pissed off the devil, I guess, that it led to the punishment of being a devil baby when the baby was born. So like the dad pissed it off and the baby was then punished basically. There were other stories about it that like the grabbing of the cigar was a part of one of them. Other ones had the baby like starting out as normal and it was kind of stillborn. And then there was like a puff of fire and brimstone smoke and smell and everything. And it was changed. Like basically there were all these different kind of variants that came from different migrant communities in this area where they all kind of reflected a little bit these different cultures' folklore in some ways. Because one of the things that's really interesting about this devil baby story to me personally, I think, is that all of this came about when Chicago was like being totally just flooded with migrant workers due to like trying to do factories and all that kind of stuff. So there was a lot of like people who were new to America, couldn't speak English, didn't have a lot of stuff going on that they like, basically there were a lot of people out of their normal homes in Chicago. And this settlement home was like a place that they could go for anything they needed. And it became a community hub. So all of this weird stuff then kind of got pushed onto the whole house, and it allowed them to kind of look at the kind of, I guess, the progression of how old world superstitions and belief came to the U.S. And then, like, when this story started, the parents that knew the old folklore and their children that were like now growing up and working and kind of becoming American and were different and like kind of separated from their parents culturally. Their parents were like, "Oh, now you're in our world again. You're dealing with the supernatural stuff that we know about." And it was like this weird cultural and generational divide in Chicago that was all around this strange story about a devil baby that I just find fascinating.
Yeah, that's super interesting. It's almost like you said, people who don't have a connection or a tie to their new home are trying to bring some aspect of like comfort into that area. And not to say that like a devil baby is a comfortable concept, but the community that of like, I don't know, gossip is like, I feel like has a negative connotation. But I think a lot of this has to do with, you know, a story spreads from a person to a person to a person, and it makes everyone in that chain feel connected to other people, even though they're not directly having a conversation. Because everyone understands that if you're getting these like reports of, oh, this person did this thing and they live on this street, and oh, I know where that street is, and I don't know that person, but I know about that area, and I understand like why, like I can go over there, and now I see this like new part of the town I haven't been in, and I'm looking for this devil baby. Like I can see how that naturally builds a sense of community for people who are trying to foster that community in the new world or into this new city or the new environment they find themselves in. That is really interesting.
It's and I mean, folklore can sort of be a reflection of, contemporary anxieties, with that sort of, like you said, Niall, old world tinge. And like, I mean, what's more anxiety inducing than like my newborns? Something's wrong with my newborn, and this is like
100%.
at a time when like your newborn, like you're living in a time where like that was probably even scarier because we don't have the technology and the medical capabilities that we do now. So yeah, and yet, so there's a comfort aspect to it, like you said, I think, but I also think that it can just like sort of crop up as a reflection of anxiety. It's a bit of both, right? Mm-hmm. Like, at least that's how it seems to me.
And there was also, at the time I was reading, so there's a really, really good write-up that on the website it's referred to as a book, but it's by an author named Harriet Alonso. On her website, she has a whole thing about the Devil Baby, Jane Addams, and the whole house. And she really went into combing newspapers from the time period, looking at socioeconomic conditions, and finding that due to like the lack of garbage pickup and the weather being particularly bitter that year, there was a lot more child death in the air, basically, around this exact time period than there had been previously. And so the idea of your child being taken from you was like a really big fear in a lot of the people in this area at this specific time period, that probably led to a lot of the anxieties that were reflected then in the Devil Baby legends,
Yeah. It's that also like the spoiling of the innocence that is particularly like gripping. I think even if you look back as far as the old as stories get, as old as the written word gets, the idea of like you're sacrificing your baby to a demon. You look at Beowulf, or you look at like the Bible and like like putting lamb's blood on the door to make sure your firstborns aren't taken. Like the idea of this like young infant, or this like this pure creature, this pure thing being transformed or being offered up to something evil. Like tying innocence and evil is a fundamental storytelling device that we have as people. And there's nothing quite as pure as a newborn child. I don't think anyone can point to a specific thing or person or like subgroup of humanity that is more, quote, like pure and what's what I'm looking for, like unspoiled or the opposite of evil, antithetical to like villainy and devilry than a newborn child.
And to further add to your point, because about like comfort too, you said the blood on the door to prevent the child from being taken. You know what that is, right? Like so that tradition still kind of exists in the form of a mezuzah, which you will hang in your doorway. It's a Jewish thing.
Yeah.
And when I see a mezuzah in the wild, which is rare, I must admit, if I see it out there, somebody has it on their doorway, or if I hear somebody properly speak and pronounce Yiddish, I do feel safer around that person.
Yeah.
So, I guess it's like, you have these folkloric stories that invoke that without maybe directly, just saying the folklore itself, if that makes sense,
Oh, Kyle, there is a Jewish version of the Devil Baby in Chicago legend here.
Oh shit. Okay.
So instead of the kind of Catholic thing of the, Catholic versus atheist with the holy symbols on the wall and everything, in the Jewish version, it was basically that there was a father who had 6 daughters. And he said before the birth of the 7th child that he would rather have a devil in his house than another girl.
Oh my God.
At which point the Devil Baby then came out because I guess he was going to get another girl. So, yeah. So there's also like, there are some instances where people will reference like a red automobile showing up when the baby is born. I didn't find a lot of those, but I saw it referenced a couple places. So like that's one of the weirder sides of things, along with the whole like cigar stealing thing. Those are kind of the more flashy, ridiculous versions that you'll find out there. So supposedly after the baby was born, it was then spirited away to Hull House, and where it was kept locked in the attic and hidden away from the public, if you believe the kind of sensationalized versions of the story. And there are some like really okay. I have no actual evidence to back this up, but anytime I see something like this that is an attempted like force for good in a community, and then you see people talking about how Jane Addams has like a well in the courtyard of this place where she hides baby fetuses and stuff. And like, because she performs abortions, you're always like, oh, so someone had it out for the settlement house here and was trying to like get them shut down and slandered, basically, you know? Like, there's a lot of stories about Jane Addams killing the devil baby and burying it in the courtyard, and like a lot of very specific stuff about this woman just doing evil things to the devil baby effectively, that I have found absolutely no actual record that would lead me to believe any of that stuff actually happened. There were a couple actual deaths on the site of the Hull House, which lead to some of the ghost stories, including Millicent Hull, which we'll talk about. I mean, she died of like an unnamed illness. So we don't really know how she died, but supposedly she haunts the building a little bit. But as far basically, people have tried really hard to look into every record they can find to see if any sort of slightly malformed baby or a baby with any sort of disabilities was found in the area at this time, and literally nothing could be found. There was like one baby that had a very like slight deformity that was raised in a place nearby, but by all accounts, this is based on absolutely nothing and is literally just a cultural phenomenon that got brought in to the community, and then they just harassed this building for like 6 weeks. And then what's funny is like on the 5th week was when the newspaper finally got a hold of it. And that's basically what killed it. Like the newspaper going public with it, it brought a little bit of attention from the larger city, but in the community, because of, I don't exactly know why, but in the community, that basically killed the story, and it was done a week later.
It's one of those, like, your parents use the cool word, and then everyone's like, you know, we're not going to talk about that. We're not going to use that word ananymore. My dad said Riz at Thanksgiving, and now we can't say it anymore.
Did he actually do that?
Yeah.
No, but my dad, no.
It's the funny internet meme that suddenly some corporation creates a YouTube pre-roll ad that has the meme in it, and the meme is dead. It's the same phenomenon, I guess.
It's like whenever my words are really solid right now. It's like when every used car dealership was making a Gangnam Style ripoff video to try and sell their sedans.
Yeah. That was good though. I did like that. There was a lot of really good ones when people were doing the Gangnam Style videos. My personal favorite was Spartan High School Style, which is a YouTube video you can find of some high schoolers doing Gangnam Style for their high school, and it's but yeah, I imagine car dealerships kind of killed that meme for a lot of the internet people.
And turns out it's like the Chicago Tribune killed the devil baby meme for a bunch of like poor West Side migrant workers.
Yeah, these people are all memeing devil baby memes.
Devilbabyitsaboy.
Oh my
God.
All right, well that's not cool anymore.
To wrap up the devil baby portion of this episode, I found this really interesting. In Jane Addams' accounts of her life, which are called like 10 years at the Hull House and 20 years at the Hull House or something. Or no, it's 20 years and then another 20 years at the Hull House. She recounted some of the people that came here once it was in full force, and talking to all of these old women who so desperately believed this thing was real, and kind of the effect that had on her and everything, that I just found this interesting. So most were immigrants who had been ripped away from village life only to find themselves engulfed in the confusion of a huge urban center. Many worked hard at menial jobs throughout their entire lives. Too many were stressed to the point of a mental breakdown. For Addams, these older women were particularly vulnerable to the devil baby myth. She claimed, whenever I hear the high ear voices of old women, I was irresistibly interested and left anything I might be doing in order to listen to them. It was a very serious and genuine matter with these old women. This story so ancient and yet so contemporaneous, and they flocked to Hull House from every direction. Those I had known for many years, others I had never known, and some whom I had supposed to be long dead. And she goes on to recount a specific instance of this woman that literally left a medical facility because her legs were not functional, and dragged herself multiple miles to the Hull House just to come see this devil baby. And when this woman got to this place, Jane Addams was like so upset by it that she almost like lied and started to just recount stuff other people had told her about the devil baby, just not to disappoint this poor woman that had dragged herself here. And she ended up like, the woman kind of saw her, the gears turning in her head, and like her face just fell. Like, this woman was crushed when like it turned into this thing that people were like sinking their like life into, like being the person that saw the devil baby so they could go home and recount the story to the people around them. It was such a weirdly like heartfelt need for these women to that this thing existed that came from nowhere.
This is what's killing the devil baby fandom.
But it's also, and it's interesting you bring up fandom, because I think I don't have any grand point about this, but I always find it interesting to try and like make sure I'm taking a moment to recontextualize these kind of stories about a community that gets hyper fixated on a specific event, whether real or imagined, at a time before the ubiquity of information and entertainment that we are now drowning in as a society. Like, we're sitting here on computers over Skype in different cities recording a podcast. So we did research on like niche websites from like independent authors or putting their works out, and like citing historical records from digital databases. Like, none of this existed at the time. And the idea that within a local community, just via word of mouth, there becomes a thing to see and do. And the like it thing at the moment was going to view a devil baby. And if you were the one who got to see that devil baby, you were like, you got your quote 15 minutes of fame. It's like if you made if you like, you've uploaded 14 TikTok videos and you're a high school, like you're a teenager or whatever, you've uploaded 15 TikToks and they've all got like 8 to 10 likes from your friends. And all of a sudden one just like hits the algorithm just right. And next thing you know, you have like 9 million views. And it's like the idea that you have now like sipped the nectar of the gods, like you have become one of the chosen like few who's able to experience this like cultural flash in the pan. Like, I can see why people would literally drag themselves down the road on their arms, like with non-working legs, to go like be the it person at a time whenever they're just like, there just wasn't that freedom of things to go like see and do. Not that it was like boring time where there were no books to read, no like radios to listen to or whatever. So I don't want to be overly sensationalized with it, but it is, I think, always important to take a step back and realize that something like this becomes so much more important whenever people are not desensitized to new information and new entertainment on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, I think you could even extrapolate the same idea to the early days of UFOs and even cryptid and like
100%.
Bigfoot sightings. Like, it's a similar sort of thing, I think. Though there is something like the tantalizing thing about a UFO or Bigfoot is this possibility that maybe it's real. Yeah. I have a little bit of trouble imagining that there were that people were like, I feel like there is some suspension of disbelief going on there, whereas with UFOs or whatever, you're like, well, maybe we're at the advent of a new scientific leap. But then a devil baby's like, well, that's a baby that like pulled a cigar out and started chomping on it as soon as it exited the womb. That's That's a little more suspension of disbelief to me, I guess. But I think that the principle is the same, like you said, Collin.
Yeah. It's a similar principle to like where I think not a lot of this started, but I think a lot of it becomes extremely in vogue during the time of like the adventure epics, where people go to the South American rainforest and they're saying they saw a crocodile that was 130 feet long, and they saw a Mayan temple full of gold, and they saw a giant feathered dragon fly, and like no one else can really go check them on it, but it feels plausible because there is still mystery in the world at a time before everything is like digitally surveyed by a satellite and everyone has like smartphones and connections to an infinite supply of information. I can see how this spawns. Yeah.
The golden age of science fiction pulp novels and magazines like coincides with the big ufological events in American history. You know, it makes sense.
And everything from Hollow Earth theory to like fucking you know, men from Mars and stuff. Yeah. One last speaking of like reflection in culture and stuff. Supposedly this is in some way the what the story for Rosemary's Baby was based on.
That makes sense.
That's slightly apocryphal. Like I think it might be based on kind of the devil baby thing in general, but it's referenced a lot when you look this up. So there are a couple other hauntings. So here's just like a weird thing that I feel about this specific episode where the whole house was like kind of an important historical landmark and everything, and like Jane Addams was like doing a lot of shit and everything, and they didn't really invite the haunted stuff into it. And now there are like a lot of people doing haunted tours about this place and everything, and like trying to go there and everything. And it's just it's like a weird kind of like a weird it's weird that this place is so famous for hauntings when it was a lot of that stuff came so much later. Anyway, it's just one of those things. So there, like I said earlier, there is a lady in white that supposedly haunts depending on where you look. It's either the bedroom of Charles and Millicent Hull, which also was supposedly where Jane Addams slept as well. So she supposedly saw this ghost, which I saw some basically there. I'm not fully certain which ones Jane Addams actually saw, because depending on where you look, she either basically there's differing reports on what room she actually was in, what ghost she saw, and if she actually saw anything. There's also like a rumor that all the ghastly activity during her time was a cover for the fact that she was a lesbian and living and like having sex with her partner. There was also the woman that kind of funded the whole house and was like her longtime partner. So there are people that basically think any sort of ghostly activity in the whole house was code for lesbian sex. And I don't think it's that cut and dried, but it's an interesting theory at least.
There's this moaning ghost who sounds like she's having a really good time.
I hope that's the truth of it. I hope it was just two lesbians at a time when being a lesbian was about as apocryphal as you could get. Just finding a way to be with each other and have everyone fuck off. That would make me quite happy.
Where this comes from, I think, is a lot of the instances that talk about Jane Addams seeing this woman in white describe it as she and a friend once thought they saw a woman in white, or sometimes a woman in a rustling dress, standing above the bed. And they never really mention why she and the friend were both in the bedroom in the middle of the night together. But that I believe is where a lot of that stuff comes from.
They're just hanging out in the bed, just cuddling, fooling around, fondling, and then all of a sudden somebody bursts in because they want to see the devil baby, and they see two people like wrapped in love making to a same-sex couple, and they immediately put the finger out to them like, you are going to hell. And then one of them saying, did you see the ghost? And they're like, wait, what? And like, yeah, there was a ghost like right at the window like a second ago, and they just completely forget that they saw like somebody touching another woman, and it's like, what? I'm down for that.
Alternatively, it was a ghost.
Oh.
And that means paranormal menage a trois.
Ooh.
Think about
Are
that.
you the gatekeeper?
No.
That would fit the supposedly various overnight guests who lived there at the time would report hearing footsteps and what they would call strange and unearthly noises. So I guess like a ghastly menage a trois would account for some unearthly noises.
Yeah.
Guests who slept over. Like, so did this woman? This woman never
this
married.
Like
or?
people lived at the settlement house.
Okay. Oh, sure.
She never
Okay.
got married, but she had 2 long-term partners across her life. Both of which helped fund the whole house. Which is she basically seemed to. She came from money because her father was one of the people that kind of supported Lincoln's presidential run and set up the Republican Party in Illinois. And then she kind of basically dated 2 kind of socialite rich women throughout her life that in turn helped fund the whole house. So interesting person.
That is, I'm gonna look up more about this person from my city, and I got to know more. This is pretty cool.
Yeah, I will be honest. More time than I normally would have spent for prepping this episode was spent me just like reading stuff about Jane Addams because it's really interesting. Yeah. There is like, okay. All of that being said, with all the stuff I was talking about with her, she in the way she talked about it in her books, she was never like frightened of the place. She looked at the ghost stories more with like more of a sense of humor, which other people also take to kind of lean into the whole it was code for lesbian sex thing. But a lot of the stories that you'll find on ghost sites talk about she moves into the Hole's bedroom, she sees a lady in white, is scared, moves to another bedroom and has her friend stay in that original bedroom. She sees the lady in white, and then they kind of shut that room off for storage, which I don't think is true, but that's the story you'll see on a lot of ghost websites. But I don't think it fits the facts of what I've read about Jane Addams' life. But I figured I had to mention it. The lady in white is sometimes also linked to the kitchen and the attic. There also are just some other ghosts around the place that will just get name dropped occasionally, like a little girl named Rebecca that will show up in photographs. But I also, a lot of the stuff about the ghosts that I read about this place comes from a guy named Adam Selzer, who runs a site called Mysterious Chicago and writes books about ghosts and the spooky history of Chicago, and was actually a tour guide at the Whole House for a long time. And he talked about legitimately how sometimes they would like see something out. Like there was a time when what looked like a glove was coming out of the foundation, and they started to joke that was the hand of a drywaller that was trapped in the foundation while they were building it. And that story then like started to show up on websites as an actual ghost story. So like there's a certain amount of these later ghost tales that I think are legitimately inside jokes from people doing ghost tours at the Whole House that just got taken as fact and posted on the internet. So it's kind of a mixed bag of ghost stories here for this place.
Once again, we return to the idea of pranks. Pranks have been really cropping up in the last couple of years of It Gets Weird as the origin story of a lot of things.
Yeah. The last little thing that I want to talk about, that this, anytime you look up the Whole House, there are 3 things that get mentioned: Jane Addams, the Devil Baby, and the portal in the courtyard.
Yeah, here for the portal in the courtyard.
I tried to find as much information as I could about the portal in the courtyard. And it basically seems to be just a story where there's a concrete slab that was in the courtyard of this building, which is actually like to the side of it. It's not in the center of it or anything, but that's not really important. And there was a fountain there. And the fountain supposedly would like only show up in certain photographs and stuff. Like there was this kind of weird thing with it. And when people would take pictures of it, they would see these ghastly figures standing on top of the photograph, on top of the fountain. A lot of times it was seen as a couple monks, is what they were described as, but sometimes it was a group of young girls. Basically, this, I don't exactly know how it started, but this concrete slab fountain started to be referred to as a portal through which spirits enter and exit hell and the spirit world. And so you'll just see it that this place has a portal to hell in the courtyard with no explanation, no story, no sources. on like every website you go and look through, like every like haunted Chicago where it's listing the most haunted places in Chicago. It's like, go see the Devil Baby and the portal in the courtyard. And it's like, okay. But the most I could find was that some people, when they enter the courtyard, would start to feel dizzy or nauseous. But the people that do the tours specifically said, oh yeah, the people that did that usually felt it after we told them that some people felt that. So they're like, people that are tuned to think of this stuff as real would kind of cause themselves to get dizzy and nauseous when they would go into this courtyard.
Yeah. That being said, how much would you shit your pants if you walked into this courtyard in Chicago and there was just some Stargate shit going down?
I'd shit my pants immediately.
Yeah, instant pants shitting. I think.
I would just open up. I would just relieve myself. It's like a snap of a fingers. It'd be done.
And then Satan's hand reaches through and drags you straight to hell, shit pants and all.
Oh man. Yeah.
Oh, and one other one that I can confirm was made up by people that did tours that you will occasionally see online is referenced as a one-legged stripper ghost.
What?
That one is not. That one is entirely apocryphal and made up as well. So most of the ones, like, there also is like ghost photography here, but there's ghost photography in every old building. But you can find ghost photos taken in like the late 90s and early 2000s if you look around, including like a lot of them are staircase photos with people in them. And a lot of those have been debunked completely. So like that's kind of a rundown on all of the spooky stuff that happens at this.
Is the one-legged stripper girl who they got to like pose for the cover of Showgirls?
Yeah.
That's the ghost.
Let's go with that.
It's the Showgirls ghost.
The cover of Showgirls is actually a ghost photo taken at the whole house.
That'd be sick.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, these stories are always interesting, but the one thing I would really like to add is that this is even more interesting if you just in your mind imagine that it is HOLE house the entire episode. That's been kind of what You've
really been stuck on that this whole time. Yeah.
Kyle heard one word that sounds like another word and has just not been able to let it go.
I just like the idea, I guess. It's like,
I do
oh, you want to go check out the whole house? Nah, man, you fall down too much in there. Holes.
It's like 15 feet deep. You could sprain your wrist.
And one really bad hole there just takes you straight to hell. So
the thing that I haven't been able to let go is how much this sounds like a really solid setup for a season 3, like a Doctor Who episode. Like the portal in the courtyard, the haunt, like you have this, because I mean I'm just saying, if you're listening, I tried to like pull the old showrunner and I can't.
Moffat?
Russell T. Davies.
Yeah, Russell T. Davies. I wanted to say, Russell T. Davies. If Russell T. Davies is listening, you have a perfect situation. You have an important, like, pragmatic female voice, historical figure who you can then interact with, and a whole house. Like, you have this like subplot of like real and fake ghost stories. And the portal in the courtyard is a tagline that you can put in the trailer. Like, I
was going to say the portal in the courtyard is the title of the episode, given that it's Doctor Who, right? Like,
absolutely.
Yeah.
The portal in the courtyard. And you just like go to Whole House and you find out that portal takes you onto like a Dalek spaceship or whatever.
Yes, exactly.
Unfortunately, I can only confirm that Stephen Moffat and Chris Chibnall both listen to the podcast. I don't think Russell T. Davies is a standard listener.
Hey, I got some notes, Moffat. I got some notes for you if you wanna correspond. Hit us up at the email. But no, you're right, Collin. It is kind of a perfect. It's a potent brew for a Doctor Who episode.
It's a perfect little bottle that you can just kind of pour out onto the table and just sort of splash your hands in and just have a really fun time.
Yeah.
This is cool.
So do you guys want to do a big question?
I would love to do a big question.
Oh yeah, I forgot we do the questions. I love it.
Always down.
Mm-hmm. All right. So if we were to take the concept of this haunting as a euphemism or cover up for lesbian sex, what other phenomenon in the world of weird is actually just a euphemism or cover up for another type of sex?
Well,
sexual
I have an immediate answer.
Hit it.
Which I can
I bet
can
you
give
do.
it, but like if Collin wants to like cook on his for a little bit, but like I have an answer that's like not a joke, it's just a real phenomenon.
Okay.
I will say mine insofar as that I don't have a lot to go on with it, but my general thought is I've always had the sneaking suspicion that the alien probing ideal is a way to explain sort of rectal fissures and other kind of sodomy, hemorrhoid based sort of like anal play things.
Sure.
Like, oh, that's why I can't sit down super well, is because the aliens took me and did the whole classic prod.
They went a little too fast and didn't stretch well enough before they started going for it.
Yeah.
And it was great. I mean, scary.
A lot of lube.
Lot of lube.
Oh,
if you're gonna do it, lot of lube. PSA.
That goes to aliens.
That's okay. So aliens, yeah, sure. So like aliens, it's like, oh, I was abducted. I saw a UFO. They abducted me. They probed me anally. But truth be told, you're just doing some, you're doing some normal sex shit, or you're doing like, goatsy style stuff.
And here's my thing, where my personal opinion is, most of the stuff that you choose to do with your own asshole is normal sex. It might not be culturally like normal section.
I mean, like, I just mean that, like,
hey, we don't kink shame.
No, absolutely not.
Look, I'm not kink shaming. What I'm saying is that goatsy is a little bit beyond the typical. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying the goat.
I think we can agree.
I don't think
that,
the goat man's wrong for doing what he does. I'm saying he's in, I think, a bit more of a minority.
So, Kyle, that's a very brave stance.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Now, I'm going to just say a thing that's real, but hunting for Bigfoot is just a cover for men to go and have sex with their buds. They're going out with the bros, having a couple beers in the woods, and then fucking each other silly.
It's like Brokeback Mountain, but for Bigfoots.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
It's like
Brokeback Bigfoot.
Well, like I seem to recall that being a story at one point where like a woman who accused her husband of cheating found out that his thing was that he would say he's going out to do Bigfoot hunts with his buddy. Turns out they were fucking. And I have seen this exact accusation in the wild. Not going to say where, but I've seen it mentioned before. So apparently this is a thing that there's, what I'm saying is there is a precedent for men going out saying like, oh honey, I'm taking the truck out to the park. We're going to be staying there over the weekend. We're going to maybe fish, catch a couple of fish. Snag a couple brews. We're looking for Bigfoot out there also. And turns out they're fucking slamming each other nasty style out there. Just pounding away.
I respect so much that of all of the cover stories you could invent for going out and slamming nasty style with your buddy Derek is that I'm going to go hunt for Bigfoot.
Yeah,
is such a specific thing that I really appreciate.
All aspects of it except for the adultery part.
Yeah, okay. Adultery's bad, okay? Like it isn't the good part of the story.
Yeah.
But I am glad that Derek and Steven found out they love to slam it down Bigfoot style, because that's probably something they both need, or else they probably wouldn't be doing it.
And when they're out there doing it, making the sex sounds, you know the kind.
Yeah, the kind you hear at the Whole House.
Yeah.
The moaning from the portal in the courtyard.
Yeah, it's probably not too dissimilar to a Bigfoot's call. So you're out there blending in with the Bigfoot. Maybe Bigfoot shows up on the edge of the clearing where you've camped out and started to fuck. Maybe he watches, snacks on a few berries while you're doing it, and just kind of does his own thing because he likes to, watch. And that's the scenario that's what I'm sticking with.
Kind of wish you didn't make Bigfoot into the villain here, because I don't think if people are slamming it down nasty style, you have any right to stop and watch. Shaming? No, that's not kink shaming. All right, that lacks that lacks any sort of invitation.
Sorry,
from the people slamming it down nasty style.
Sorry, let me repaint the picture. There's two guys.
Did Bigfoot get consent?
Yeah, there's two guys fucking pounding each other's assholes hard as they fucking can. They're lubed up. They're going to town, and they look over. And on the edge, you see Bigfoot approaching, and Bigfoot sort of has like a, oh shit, should I go? And the two guys like, nod their heads like, come closer, Bigfoot. You can watch in this scenario. And Bigfoot's
and
like,
Bigfoot's into it too, right?
Yeah.
Okay, sick.
Maybe Bigfoot joins in.
Great, a little menage a trois.
Yeah. You had a paranormal.
So I think at this point we've stopped with a
menage a trois.
At this point, I think we've gone beyond cover up and just gone into like full fan fiction, which I endorse. It's great.
This is a Chuck Tingle story waiting to happen.
Yeah.
Pounded in the ass by my friend Derek and Bigfoot. Yeah.
Chuck Tingle. So, of all the people I've called out as possible listeners, Blink 182, the showrunners of Doctor Who. I didn't realize those rhymed before I started, and I got really tripped up. Number 3. Chuck Tingle, most likely person to currently be listening to your podcast.
Yeah, Dr. Tingle.
I think by law averages, it's probably most likely.
If Dr. Tingle is listening, that would be sick. I will tell you a genuine thing that we do know is I believe like an archaeologist, listens to the show and has played the show at a dig site before.
That's very good.
So the idea. I occasionally stop and think about what we're saying on the show and picture a dig site full of like archaeologists uncovering dinosaur bones, and they're here going like, yeah. So this guy's getting fucked by his friend, and then his friend's getting fucked by Bigfoot. Like, I'm just trying to imagine that.
And then six second year college students looking at their professor with side eyes, being like, I mean, I guess as long as we're getting credit,
yeah. So I'm just gonna say poltergeists are covering up for primal play, and that's just the
poltergeist for primal play,
and that's all there really is to it.
No, hang on. What's for primal play? What's that mean?
So primal play is when you indulge in your animalistic side and you kind of chase and hunt and pounce and all that kind of stuff.
And
so
run.
I think all of the chairs being thrown across the room and stuff being smashed and thrown around. Is really just people letting out their inner beast,
I have never in my life. I have been on the internet an unbelievable amount, and I have never heard the phrase primal play. This is new to me. I have a Google search to do after this episode. So that's
there you go.
Wow, you learned something new.
We learned something. Hey, the more you know, Kyle.
Holy shit. That's wow. Okay. Well, hey, Collin, thanks for joining us. We have some business to attend to, but after the...
Do you want to let Collin go first?
Collin, if you would like to go ahead and promo your whole shit and talk about your fucking thing.
I love talking about my fucking thing. I'd be happy to talk about my fucking thing. And one thing that I enjoy doing on this podcast right now is saying things like slamming it down big style and talking about fucking shit and piss and stuff. Because currently I do a podcast with my lovely co-hosts, Mike and Stasha, and a couple producers, Brian and James, lovely people. We have a whole crew there. And we do a podcast called Pop Culture Roll Call, where we take certain TV shows and properties that we haven't seen before, maybe only one of us has seen before, and we chop out individual character scenes. And then we all get together and we say what our character was up to. So we did our first one that we did was Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I played Willow, the titular character. I'd never seen Buffy the Vampire Slayer before. And the producers would go through and cut every single episode so that I would only see scenes that Willow was present for. And if I was not present for the scene, it would be cut out of my run time. And then whenever we got together, I would be responsible for talking about Willow and they would be responsible for talking about their characters. Currently, we're doing Gravity Falls, which, kind of akin to the whole spooky cryptid thing that's going on in this show too. But we're also making it kid friendly, so no cursing or anything like that. So it is nice to be able to open up and really let the curse words fly. Because it turns out I'm not very good at not cursing. About once an episode, we have to hit that old pause button because good old Grunkle Stan loves throwing around an F-bomb or two, and that's
well, to be fair, they gave you Grunkle Stan and then expected you to be able to rein it in. So
as soon as my voice starts getting gravelly, I just want to say shit piss.
What's this? I can't talk about Bigfoot fucking? Huh?
Why don't I? What do I look like? Some kind of Nancy, some kind of ninny? I can't say some Bigfoot slamming it down big style with Kevin. Yeah.
I will say, I have been listening to the Gravity Falls episodes because, like, I try to listen to everything that's from a show that I've watched because I didn't get to see Orphan Black. So at some point I have to watch Orphan Black so I can listen to the podcast.
Quality TV.
But you as Grunkle Stan, one, very inspired choice, but two, the fact that you guys don't swear and then you had like an episode that was like fan questions and some of the questions were coming from listeners whose children were listening to it with them was adorable and I loved it.
That's incredible.
So yeah,
it's
everybody should
cute.
check out Pop Culture Roll Call. It's a great show. And
popculturerollcall.libsyn.com. You can just Google Pop Culture Roll Call. We have a Patreon, patreon.com/Pop Culture Roll Call. You know, all the general stuff. You search it in your feed, you'll find us. Kyle and Niall have been on multiple times, and my guesses will be on in the future. Producer James has talked about guests for this spooky season. I don't get to know who the guests are because I've never seen the stuff. So I don't get to know who's coming up because that would spoil stuff. But who knows? Maybe stuff's already in the works. I don't know.
Oh yeah. I would be amazing, and we've had the co-hosts of Pop Culture Roll Call on this show. It's been a very very long time though, so maybe we gotta rectify that sometime soon.
Oh yeah, thank you. No, it's great. We love our sister podcasts.
Absolutely. Well, that'll take us to our business, Niall, if that's cool with you.
Yeah. All right, so if you want to follow us on social media, we're on Twitter at IGW Podcast.
You can follow us on Facebook.com/ItGetsWeirdPodcast.
And we're on all your favorite podcatchers. If you listen to podcasts somewhere, look up It Gets Weird, and we're probably there.
Twitch.tv/ItGetsWeird. That's right. Been playing some Twitch streams, Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree co-op with Collin here, who we happen to have on the episode. I've been bringing this up. Go give us a follow on Twitch.
I play Squidward.
Yeah, you're currently a character model after Squidward. I believe I'm Ava Unit 1. It's been a super, super fun. So come check it out. Give us a follow on Twitch. itgetsweirdpodcast@gmail.com. If you want your email read on the show, if you have an interesting story or a follow-up to anything we've said on the show, please hit us up. We may read it out on the show. Just let us know how we should address you. And you might get your email on the show. We'll see. And then finally, patreon.com/itgetsweird. We have a $1 tier, a $2 tier, and a $5 tier. At the $1 tier, it's just a tip. You don't get anything. You're just saying, hey, thanks for doing what you do. Here's a buck. Keep on being my favorite weirdo podcast. At the $2 tier, though, you start to get bonus content where Niall and I watch weird television for a show that we call It Gets Weird TV, which, believe it or not, we have watched all of Gravity Falls.
Sick.
Which happened way before you guys were doing it, so it wasn't exactly us trying to synergize, but now there is synergy, so you have to donate at least to the $2 tier of the Patreon and the Patreon over at Pop Culture Roll Call. Again, don't make the rules. You're just going to have to do it. So you get that, but then at the $5 tier, you get access to another bonus show that Niall and I just started a new one. You get a bunch of different material. Sometimes we watch movies. Sometimes we even record like commentary tracks for movies. We've done a bunch of stuff at the $5 tier. So please check it out. Whether you donate to the $2 tier or the $5 tier, you get access to the main show 2 days early on Friday instead of Sunday. And you get access to the Discord where we're all hanging out, chatting together about Bigfoot, sucking and fucking or whatever. So please donate to the Patreon, patreon.com/itgetsweird. If you can't, tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell your congressman all about It Gets Weird podcast. Collin, it's been so good to have you back, and I hope we get to do this again really soon because I'll say it. You're a beloved guest. You're a beloved friend.
It's true.
Hey, I love you both, friend. And I love showing back up and putting this cozy sweater on.
Thank you. We love you, Collin. And thanks to everybody for listening. I've been Niall. No, I haven't.
Nope. I've been Niall.
How many times you done this? We're like 300 plus, right?
Niall is supposed to say that, and I just launched into Niall's line. Look, it's the hard Mountain Dew doing the talking. I got to be honest with you. This shit went straight to my brain. I don't know what's wrong with me. Niall, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to, take your line there.
No, hey, I'm Kyle this week. That was Niall. And thank you for listening to It Gets Weird.
This is It Gets Weird, and I've been Kyle, and I'm signing out.
And I've been Niall. Peace.